Do you ever feel guilty when you don't get all of the laundry put away or the dishes done and you just can't muster the energy to get off the couch? Do you have a little voice inside your head that tells you you aren't working hard enough or doing enough when you're already digging really deep just to get the basics done? In this week's episode, I tackle the inner critic and how that voice affects how we feel about being cyclical beings. Join me as I give you tools to tell that little inner critic to sit down and be quiet because you are enough. You are doing enough. And where you are in your cycle may just be calling the shots as to what that might look like. Hi, I'm Adrienne Irizarry. I'm an Eastern medicine practitioner who is passionate about women's health and helping women live their best lives. My goal is to put you in the driver's seat of your menstrual health, offering period solutions for a symptom-free life. Statements made in this program are for educational purposes only and not intended as a substitution for medical consultation or advice. We do not claim to diagnose, treat, or cure any diseases. This podcast is inclusive and welcomes all gender identities. The focus of the program is on biological function, and we will use the term women throughout, but it is referencing physiological and social challenges for biology, not identity. Come as you are, I am happy you're here and welcome all performances of identity. I hope you find something helpful in this show. Welcome back to another episode of the Reproductive Rebel podcast. In last week's episode, we took a look at what does it mean to be a cyclical being. And in our deeper dive into the inner workings of your body, the energetics of your cycle, and what it actually means to be a cyclical being, we have discovered that as our body changes throughout the month, it gives us certain gifts and it asks for certain types of care during the different phases of our month. For a deeper dive into the basics of how your body works, check out the Tao of Women Institute and the Body Basics course for a more in-depth look at all of the interworkings of your absolutely magnificent system. If you're looking for a deeper dive into the energetics of how your body changes throughout the month, after you've done Body Basics, check out Not Your Mama's Menstrual course because that looks at the seasonal changes that you go through in each of the phases of your cycle and how to best support your energetic changes as well as the lifestyle things to keep in mind in order for you to thrive all month long. This week, in this episode, want to focus on the downside of being a cyclical being. And I'm not saying that to frame this as a negative episode, but more to take a look at how we make being a cyclical being a negative thing. So we live in a culture that is expected to be go, go, go all the time. There are lots of demands on our time. There's lots of demands on our resources, both emotionally and physically. Our environment asks a lot of us. Our jobs demand a lot of us. And we're expected to just always maintain this very high functioning pace all month long. So, what I want to look at this week is actually the conversations we have in our head with people around us, in our environment, the memes we see in social media, all of these things that reinforce that if we slow down and if we stop, it's a negative thing. Our Western culture demands a pace that our bodies are not built for. And really, men or women, it doesn't matter. Regardless of what you were assigned with at birth for biological parts, our cultural container is far more demanding than our nervous system and our bodies are built for. And now let's look at it in terms of this delicate ecosystem. inside of a biological woman's body with all of the hormone changes that happen throughout the course of the month. When you add stress on top of that, that influences the way her system is able to show up. And the symptoms that are a byproduct of the stress and the extra demands on the system. So when we're in a container that is very unforgiving for slowing down, it is very common for us to talk a lot of crap in our head. And that voice inside of our head can be our greatest ally or our biggest adversary. And you really do have an opportunity to make a choice as to whether that voice will be your ally or your adversary. So, having a deeper understanding of what is going on inside of our body helps us to reframe and look at our lived experience through a different lens, because we are now understanding, oh, I am in my menstrual phase. It's normal for me to not have as much energy here. I'm coming into ovulation, the later part of my follicular phase into ovulation. Oh, this is where I thrive and I'm the most verbal and I have the most energy. So I should put a lot of my tasks and outward facing activities in this place, right? So being able to plan your work around your cycle, being able to plan your life around your cycle, all of a sudden you start feeling more resilient and you're feeling stronger. And that makes you feel successful. Because when we're in this place of not understanding what is going on in our body, it is so easy to start being like, there are dishes in the sink and I just need to do one more load of laundry. Yep, that pile of clothes has been sitting there and it really needs to be folded and I just haven't gotten to it yet. And, do some of these things sound familiar? We push ourselves because we look around our houses and we see that they need to be picked up or that the kids left a tornado of toys and mess. I'm just going to say general mess because it could be food crumbs. It could be toys everywhere. It could be the deathly Legos that you step on in your bare feet and think that you're going to die from pain. Like whatever it is, like we tend to look at our environments and go, shit, I haven't gotten to that thing yet, but damn, I'm so tired. I just can't muster the energy to do it. Or okay, so there's that piece of it. And then that little voice that chimes in our head that says, come on, you can do it. Stop being a baby about it and just suck it up and do it, right? The more that we just quote unquote suck it up or suck it up, buttercup, like anytime we have that kind of conversation in our head, we're pushing our body beyond what our chi is allowing us to do and what our resources in our body are equipping us for. So then the next step is the messages that we're getting outside of our body, that we're being lazy, that we're not working hard enough. I had an employer once, and it was actually totally the straw that broke the camel's back for me. I had an employer that I had created like solutions to my overworked problem. I was working over 70 hours a week. I was giving everything to this position that I really cared about the person that I was supporting in that role. I really cared about the work. I really loved what I did. But I was working over 70 hours a week and I was starting to get more sick. My kids were at this point in their life where they were human petri dishes that brought home every gross and disgusting thing from school. So who do they go to? They crawl into mama's lap, right? You love them and help them feel better and feel safe and deal with their symptoms, and then you catch it, right? So I was in this like really gross circle at that point in my life of little kid human petri dishes, bringing home all the gross from school, working over 70 hours a week, obviously not working in the flow of my hormones and the way that my body was asking me to and screaming at me, like not asking. It had gotten to a point where my body was not gently asking me for love and support. It was saying, this needs to change, and it needs to change right now. And here are all of the red flags that we're giving you that you're not giving us what I need, damn it. And I didn't know to look at it like that at the time. I didn't know to read it like that. I just knew in my soul, I just knew that I was soul level tired and I was burnt out and I couldn't give to my family the way that I wanted to. And I wasn't showing up the way I wanted to at work because I had no pressure release valve. And in trying to provide myself with one and advocating for myself to get one with my employer, I was told, instead of like, hey, thank you for being proactive about your issue, let's see what we can do about it. I was not valued enough or didn't feel valued enough as an employee for them to be proactive about it. And instead, they looked at me and told me I wasn't working hard enough and I wasn't doing enough. And if I could just multitask better and I could just work harder, then I would be doing my job appropriately, instead of looking at all the successes and the fact that there was growth in the area that I was working in. And, the numbers were better and all the things were improving, which actually created more work. They just simply were like, you're not working hard enough. You're not doing enough. And my body was breaking. And I told myself so much garbage during that time frame. I told myself I wasn't good enough. I told myself I wasn't working hard enough. And I was raised with this work, like this incredible work ethic. My parents instilled like, you work hard and it is part of the fabric of who you are. So being told that I wasn't working hard enough broke my soul. And never at any point during that time frame did it ever occur to me that the reason I had a harder time and I really had to dig down deep in my body to show up some days was because hormonally, I wasn't supposed to be working that hard at that point in time. But man, the things I told myself in my head, like I would cry myself to sleep at night. And my husband would be like, but you work so hard, Adrienne. And I'm like, but they're telling me I'm not doing enough. And it was just this vicious cycle. And I got to a point where I was saying some really dark crap to myself in my head about not being good enough and not working hard enough and not doing enough. And I would go home and I would want to be fully present with my kids, and my phone would be going off because my employer was demanding more of my time and attention. And then they would downplay, oh, well, you're a mom and blah, blah, blah. Like that was a negative thing. Like I was caught in this really unhealthy spiral of never feeling like I was enough in any given place because my body needed certain things at different times of the month and I just didn't know what to give her. And so I felt like constantly that I wasn't giving enough anywhere. I wasn't showing up as enough anywhere. And I didn't have any more energy to give. And I was this soul level tired. And I would feel guilty as hell when my littlest would come to me with a board game and just want to play Candyland. And mom just didn't have the energy in her system. And then I would talk to myself in my head and I would browbeat myself and say, "You're a horrible mom. You can't even play Candyland with your kid." And I know I'm not alone in this. And I share all of that ugly self-talk and that ugly truth and part of my past because this is the reality for so many of us. The demands of our job or the demands of our life or both, or the unreasonable expectations that partners play, not because they're bad people, but because we have this societal container that creates unreasonable and unhealthy expectations. So the cycle perpetuates. And you know what? We have a really beautiful opportunity when we understand that we are cyclical, what that means, how that shows up in our life, and how we can best support it through education, like the Body Basics course, like the Not Your Mama's menstrual course, even setting ourselves up for our fertility. Like, I see so many people who struggle to get pregnant. And a lot of it has to do with not understanding that we are cyclical beings and we're not caring for ourselves in the right way. And when we don't manage our stress on our system, and I'm not just talking about 100 unanswered emails in your inbox, stress on your system comes in the form of not supporting all of the changes that you go through during your cycle during the month. So knowing, being empowered with that knowledge, if your goal is to get pregnant, you can do that because you're minimizing some of the stress on your system and you're caring for yourself in meaningful ways. So I also have a course called Empowered Fertility for people who are looking to get pregnant. And it actually looks at both sides of the equation. It looks at the male partner and the female partner and supporting both of their lifestyles so that he has healthy sperm, she has healthy eggs, and a reduced amount of overall stress in her system so that conception can happen in a healthy way. So if that's one of your goals, check out Empowered Fertility. There is a handout with it and there's information for both partners, things to look at, things to consider, just so that we can start making educated changes in our lifestyle about furthering our health and wellness goals or our fertility goals or whatever that is. I see so many people that struggle with their day-to-day stuff because they don't understand what it means to be a cyclical being. So learning to support yourself in these meaningful ways, there's no shame in being a cyclical body. All right, I'm going to say that again. There is nothing to be ashamed of being a cyclical body. If you are assigned at birth female, you are a cyclical body. And that is beautiful. And it has its own gifts. And there is no reason you should be talking down to yourself, minimizing your contribution in your family, in your job, in your life, in the world. None of that. It's so common. Like, my heart breaks as I talk to women in my practice, in my life, in like regular conversation before they even know what I do for work. And they talk about like how they feel awful that their house is a disaster and their kid wants to play a game and they're torn between the fact that they have these household responsibilities that they're not getting a lot of help with, and they have these child responsibilities, or maybe if they don't have child responsibilities, they have work responsibilities and all of these things. And then they have external influences in their life that are making them feel guilty and ashamed that they can't always get all the things done all the time. Now, let's think about this for a second. If you leave that laundry basket to be folded for 3 or 4 days, is the world going to come to a screeching halt? Is it going to go spinning backwards? No, it's not. If you rest during menstruation and then go deal with the laundry basket when you have more energy, nobody is going to die here, folks. You're honoring your energy. You're going to have more energy to deal with that laundry basket, to deal with the house cleaning, to deal with all of those things. If you care for yourself during menstruation, slow your pace, feed yourself good stuff. And when I say feed yourself good stuff, I'm saying what you're telling yourself in your mind, as well as what you're nourishing the rest of your body with. If you don't take anything away from this episode other than do not apologize for being a cyclical being, do not feel shame or remorse over being a cyclical being, because your hormones give you gifts and strengths and magic. And those things were just not in our culture focused on the positives. We're focused on the negatives around, I'm not doing enough, I'm not producing enough, I'm not creating enough, I'm not showing up enough, I'm not working hard enough, I'm not. And all of that gets amplified and magnified with that voice in your head, your ego self inside of your head, that tells you you're not doing enough, that is reinforced by the container around you. So I invite you in your little microcosm, your immediate family, the family that you surround yourself with, to start changing this conversation. As you educate yourself about how your body works, you're able to then educate others and say, hey, like my whole family knows when my period is coming, and I feel no shame around that anymore. I did at the beginning. But as I became a practitioner and I saw just how critically important it is to care for myself in the right ways all month long, I was like, why would I not teach my daughters this? Why would I not teach my son this? Because at some point in my son's life, he's either going to be in love with a woman, or he's going to love someone in his life who is a woman. Hopefully it's his mama, right? So understanding and having compassion and understanding and education around women as cyclical beings, he's going to be a more compassionate spouse. He's going to be a more compassionate partner. He's going to be able to show up the way that his women that he loves in his life need him to. My husband is amazing in terms of modeling this behavior for our kids. He helps with the cooking and he throws loads of laundry in when he knows that I need to rest. He demonstrates this, right? But it started with my microcosm. And then my husband will take this information when he's talking with other dudes and they're talking about their partners who are struggling with things, or somebody's growling about PMS or not getting enough or whatever. He contributes because he has knowledge, because I've made sure that everybody in my family understands what it means to be a cyclical being and how that can change sex drive, how that can change mood, how that can change energy levels, immune systems, all those kinds of things, so that they understand that my lived experience, or any of the women in my household, because I now have a young bleeding body and one soon to be a bleeding body, right? That their energy levels are going to change throughout the month. Their stamina is going to change. Their capacity for recreation is going to change. And the more they understand that, then all of them are able to talk to their sphere of influence, right? And it just starts to pay dividends forward. So I invite you to really step into learning and creating a meaningful relationship with your body and what it's doing. You don't have to love your period and celebrate it and howl at the moon every time it comes, right? Some women really love their bleed because it makes them feel better, because you get this release of stagnation, right? But some women really dread their period coming, and we can create a better experience and less dread with more health. That all starts with education. That all starts with understanding what the fuck is going on. So I invite you to educate yourself. Check out all of the courses that are available in the Tao of Women Institute, which is my course catalog to help empower you with the information that you need to make meaningful changes in your life so that you can thrive and reach whatever goal it is, whether it's a work goal or a fertility goal or just not having your period and all kinds of horrible symptoms run your life kind of goal. Whatever your goals are, knowledge is the foundation of being able to create those meaningful changes in your life. I believe in you. And all of that inner critic, negative self-talk needs to go away. And it will go away. And slowly that negative voice will start to fade to the background when there's understanding. And then you can also give yourself compassion and show up in those moments that your body goes, I can't do this today, but maybe we can try again tomorrow. And instead of being like, oh, I'm such a failure, I'm not enough, right? You're able to look at your body and go, okay, sister, we're going to just rest today. We're going to pause today. And then we're going to try again tomorrow. We're going to see how we feel tomorrow. And we're going to check in with that. And then we're going to go from there. Do you see how that totally changes your relationship with your body, with your mental health, with the way that you show up, and even the way that you move through the world? There are so many memes out there that poke fun at PMS and negative symptoms and people with cramps and, fire breathing dragon stuff and all of that. There's so many jokes that are made about it, but honest to God, those come from a lack of education because our culture normalizes those symptoms instead of going, hey, maybe this is a body's cry for help. So learning what's going on inside your system and how you can support all of those things is going to totally change how you think about yourself, how you feel about yourself, how you feel about the work that you're doing, how you're showing up for work, your capacity for work. It's going to change the frame of how you show up every single day. And that is powerful. It's powerful for your physical health. It's powerful for your mental health. You have a deeper, richer understanding of your body, of its needs, and sky's the limit. So I invite you, educate yourself. Start with body basics. Move into Not Your Mama's Menstrual course. If fertility is your goal, definitely check out Empowered Fertility after you've taken the first two. They grow upon one another because it's all about building a healthy foundation so that you can reframe the conversation in your own mind, in the world around you, in your environment, maybe even into your workplace. If you are confident and comfortable enough in the information that you know about your body, it's really powerful to take that into a workspace and go, you know what? I can absolutely do that task for you, but here's where it's going to be due. Side note, knowing that your ovulation might fall into that category, right? So, maybe you're changing your deadline of your project so that you're doing the majority of the heavy lifting for it in the phase that you're wired for it. Or maybe you have to give a presentation at work. Give the presentation when you know you're most verbal. You're always going to show up as an employee who gets it done and shows up every time, but you in the background are making mindful choices about how you schedule some of these things, how you schedule some of your trips, if that is something that's within your sphere of control, in times of the month that are best suited for it. Then you're always going to be putting your best foot forward, your strongest foot forward, and your health isn't going to suffer. You're going to have fewer missed days at work, either because of period problems or because you get sick. Like, this is really powerful, life-changing stuff, guys. Really powerful, life-changing, transforming kind of stuff. And I'm so grateful, even though it felt super gross at the time to be told that I wasn't doing enough, I wasn't showing up enough, I wasn't working hard enough. And that really damaged my sense of self for a long time. And that was very hard for me emotionally for a long time. And then once I started stepping into this practitioner role that I hold now, and I began educating myself more, and I was doing all kinds of training, from herbal school trainings and pelvic steaming and all that kind of stuff. Like, as I was creating a base of education for myself with sound healing through acutonics, all of that, the more knowledge that I had, the deeper my appreciation for understanding the changes inside my body, the deeper that appreciation grew. And so I can't even begin to tell you just how powerful knowledge is and how freeing knowledge can be. And in a world where we have this Instagram, Pinterest, perfect ring light kind of presentation of, look, my house looks like a magazine. And it creates these very unreasonable expectations of what lived household experiences look like, right? We already have that going on in our culture. So why not educate ourselves so that we don't constantly feel like we're falling down and not measuring up because our house doesn't look like a magazine, and it's happening on a menstrual day where we're really freaking tired, and then it just feels even more overwhelming and we feel even more like a failure, right? We're not failing. We're not failing. We're just not taught that our bodies need different things at different times, and that we can totally flourish and thrive if we are harnessing the gifts that it's giving us. So I am not going to belabor this point any longer, but it is critically important to know what is going on inside of your system. I invite you to check out Body Basics. Not Your Mama's Menstrual Course, and Empowered Fertility, depending on what your goals are. Learn everything you can about your body, how it works, how you can support it, and join us in the free Facebook group. I have a Reproductive Rebel podcast listeners group. It is free. Join the conversation and tell us how this information is changing your life. I want to hear it. I want to celebrate with you and happy dance with you because you're kicking ass and you are thriving and you are feeling like a healthier, more well-balanced version of yourself. I want to celebrate that with you. So join us in that Facebook group, join the conversation, and check out those courses because they will really transform the conversations in your mind, in the world around you, and everywhere else.
Thank you for joining me for another episode of Reproductive Rebel. Reproductive Rebel is recorded by certified peri-steam hydrotherapist, herbalist, sound healer, and Chinese nutritional therapist Adrienne Irizarry of Moon Essence LLC. If you are interested in setting up an appointment with Adrienne for one-on-one support, ordering from our store, or checking out our course offerings, visit our website at moonessence.life. Be sure to subscribe to our newsletter to get insider information on upcoming events and offerings. Join the conversation. Like us and follow Moon Essence Me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn. Your voices make this program possible. Thank you all for your continued support.